can also do just a system recording internally for yourself, and
Right, right. Yeah, you can
easy.
use the OBS software like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so it appears. Okay, it's this should be getting recorded now with the new Jitsi options. So everyone, this is being recorded. Jitsi told me to tell you. So here we go.
Got it.
Mo, would you like to do the intro?
Hey everyone, it is the 15th of September 2022, and we are here from the Bitcoin design community doing the design call for the Bitcoin Core GUI. And this is design call number, Chris,
7.
this is design call number 7. Let's begin.
Yay.
Okay, and what was the goal of this call today?
Wallet.
We wanted to go through the create wallet flow.
Yes.
Okay, start the discussion, and I had a little bit of time this morning to kind of work on it, but yeah, we'll see how it goes. I'll probably just share my screen,
Awesome.
and probably this one. Here we go. So, just for reference, yesterday we talked a bit more about the kind of init process and got a track there. So what I continued since yesterday was actually the create flow for the regular wallet, and I did that by shamelessly stealing Christoph's things and
Remixing.
remixing, mutilating would also be a way to describe it. So basically, this top arrow here, and um, yeah, so that's what we can discuss. I didn't do too much styling stuff. So um, the idea would be that when you click create regular wallet, we tell you kind of something up front, and you can either continue or cancel. If you continue, you get to the name and password screen. And I also tried in this thing just for me to mentally keep track which options go where and what gets triggered. So maybe we can also discuss whether I'm understanding this correctly. But I understand it that way that we probably by default say it should be the wallet should be encrypted with a password. But if the user says I don't want to encrypt it, they go this route. And once we say continue, and that's where I started making some changes. Is if you say continue, we stop you and tell you, okay, make sure um, to back up and store some best practice language that we're gonna have to invent. And here I was already not sure, but probably by default, this toggle wouldn't be enabled. So you say, okay, I understand. The the primary button gets activated, and you can basically proceed with the happy path. And and then and this is something that also we partially discussed yesterday. So one idea that we could do once the wallet is created, you would see actually the normal the nav bar that we have, and we could maybe show the. I'm not sure if this is not mixing up stuff, but use the block clock design or illustration to show the progress, the IDB progress. Question would be what to show here. Probably the big number would be the number of downloaded blocks and maybe an ETA, like we discussed yesterday. But that's just an idea, and uh, yeah. So that was kind of
Awesome.
that was kind of, and we also discussed maybe on this in this phase where you cannot do anything, we would say, okay, now is a good time to save the wallet file, or we link out to some uh, best practice guides that we might, or content that we might have, or just to the white paper. But it's just something, I threw out there. And I'm not sure if it makes sense. And we also discussed maybe we had a kind of a minified block clock or download IDB indicator, more circular way. So I kind of threw all the stuff in here to also to see what sticks during our discussion. But basically, once the download is done for this, you would see this would probably go away in this wallet. We show you, okay, this the balance is zero, and your wallet is empty, and put your some cheese on your keys, because I mean, there's not much you can actually do at this point before you, I mean, deposit. So that's maybe a way where instead of having kind of a button to say make a deposit, we just have that here and let you have at it. So that was kind of the happy path. And um, I was thinking about should we have some kind of similar dialogue or kind of dialogue here for the case where you wouldn't encrypt your wallet. So saying, um, if you don't encrypt, that's fine, but just this is what it means. You say I understand, and basically get up here. So that's kind of the status or that I continued on. And I didn't get time to do more.
Awesome, awesome. It's a great design for this. I think just to kind of start off the conversation, the first thing that comes to me is so the encrypt wallet is like a modal window, and I think uh, that might be a little confusing because okay, you can exit. Now, what state in the wallet creation process are you in? It seems kind of like an optional thing to say you understand or go back to editing. I feel like it should be a part of that wizard. So like continue, and then it's like the new page. Okay, so like this is the
Hmm.
like understanding page. Like okay, so do you know what you're doing? Just like if you lose this password, you lose your funds. Kind of explaining it, and then just continuing to go on instead of like a modal window.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd also like to see that mocked up, see how that pans out.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, but would we then still have these options here? I mean, because if you're not choosing a password, then this screen, the entire screen will be pretty empty. But that's what Christoph means, right? We have to have a version of where this is a full bleed or a full screen
Hmm.
experience because it's going to be pretty empty.
Unless you also put the password input on here.
Exactly. But then the name will be extremely empty, right? So I get the
There'll
reasoning
be a
that
name in the toggle on that screen. Yeah.
uh, or not even the toggle, right? So you did just the name and the entire password thing would
Hmm.
be on could be on here.
You
But
know, it's interesting because on mobile, it's totally fine. It's totally normal to just have one input field because a lot of times when you enter in an input field, one third up to one half on really small screens is taken up by the keyboard. So you have such small space that people are
mhm,
totally fine with just having one input field. But when we think about desktop, it's unthinkable to just have one. We try to kind of fill the
yeah,
space.
yeah,
Yeah, it's interesting how
yeah.
we
But
design differently.
I get Gerald's point, right? A modal can feel let's say, I mean, it feels less robust in terms of
Hmm.
it has less space, it has kind of less weight. So um, let's take that up and I'll just make a note here.
I have
Yes,
a
I think
question. Oh, go
I think
ahead.
yes, I think keeping all the passwords related things like when you encrypt, you can lose the funds if you lose the password, and also if you don't encrypt, it can be taken by anybody. All this information should be something like a kind of a disclaimer article on a single page. That would be, I think, a better idea instead of keeping all the password things separate.
So you're yes and no. So
Okay.
the do you mean to put all of the text information up front, then people have to read the manual and then they go through it,
No, no,
versus
like a
in,
small kind of a disclaimer.
okay,
Encrypt, but if you lose it, you lose the fund.
mhm.
Don't encrypt, and anybody can get it.
Yeah.
Kind of a dual sword kind of a disclaimer.
I
Mm,
bet we're going to have a lot of discussion because the current GUI has like two modals that you have to
yeah,
confirm. So
Mm-hmm.
clearly, there's a big push to like really
incorrect.
be in people's faces about this. So I
Yeah.
think we might have to mock up maybe three versions. One that's really in your face, one that's very light,
Mm-hmm.
and then one in the middle, and then we can get feedback on it and figure out what we want to do. Just visualize
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I mean, Shashwat, I think there's different cases where you would display different text, and so in the case where they're putting a password, you wouldn't put both of those pieces of text, right? You wouldn't put the piece of text where it's saying, if you lose the password, you lose access to the funds, and also displaying the text where it says, and if you don't put a password, well, then anyone can read it because going back to this stage, they've already chosen to put a password, and so
Yeah, that's why I was
this
saying
is
that
like dynamic.
you can move the toggle to the next page. Like on like this way, name and password should be renamed to name, and it contains only one field. But again, the problem exists. Like how Christopher mentioned that on desktop a single entry would be like a waste of space kind of situation.
It's fine though. We can do whatever we want as long as it feels right. Like we
Okay.
can
Yeah.
test right now. We're kind of in exploration bit. Sometimes,
Yes.
at least for me, sometimes you need to see how the whole thing pans out in slightly different
Mm-hmm.
variations, and then you can tell which one is overall the best solution.
Yeah.
For also another observation, just with regards to the copy, for someone like me who's not a regular user of a a desktop wallet, when the screen says first it says name and password, and then when you've entered in that information, it says, "Oh, do you want to confirm you are encrypting your wallet?" It feels like, I know to you guys, when you guys enter in name and password, you know that you are encrypting your wallet.
Mm.
But for someone like me, it's like, oh, okay, like that doesn't make sense for me. I'm entering a name and a password, and that means I'm encrypting my wallet. I don't know, like it maybe just it could be the
Yeah,
screen state before could read encrypt wallet. That means you enter a name and a password, you know?
Mm.
Um,
Mm.
I mean,
if,
Yeah.
encrypting is the technical thing that's happening. Entering a password is what the user does. So
yeah,
if you lead with password, then that should be the primary call. So in that modal there,
Here. Yeah.
confirm use of password or whatever it is. That should probably be.
Mm.
confirm the password. Yeah,
Yeah,
keep the communication the same.
yeah.
Mm. Also, I was thinking that the main difference compared to other name and password kind of situation in different site versus GUI is that there won't be any forgot password option. So shall we also kind of provide a disclaimer to the user as well about this?
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
It cannot be recovered or something like that.
Yes. Or should we provide a recovery kind of way, like
So
through an email or something? Should we do it?
we should read up. We should look at the copy that was used in the current GUI
Mm-hmm.
and see how they frame it, because I'm sure
Mm.
there was a lot of
It's
thought into it.
it's basically a warning. If you lose your passwords, you lose access to your funds,
Mm.
and then you click continue.
So Harold, I was thinking like on a kind of a deeper scale. Like, would it be a good idea on a like privacy wise? to have a forgot password kind of option where you can recover it through your email or maybe your one-time password, something like that.
No.
Not
Okay.
No. I
possible.
mean, not possible.
Yeah.
Uh,
Okay. Just throwing my ideas out. I knew that I knew the answer before I asked the question.
Yeah.
what i- what is the actual? What's what do we want to push? Should well, what should defaults be? Default should be encrypted, I guess, or not encrypted.
So in the current GUI, the default is not. But the issue is, especially if you're using a desktop wallet, that database is completely readable by
Mm,
anyone or a rogue program, right, that has access to your computer. And so it's definitely best that people encrypt it, which is why I would like it if this new GUI defaulted to that because it's
mhm.
important. Yeah.
Okay, so basically the default path would be you would have to opt out of encryption. That would be
You should, yeah. I would say if the keys are going to be on the computer, I think they should opt out. Yeah.
yeah. Okay. Yeah, I don't have anything more than this. I didn't get to the other view only on the multisig.
Michael, I wanted to also mention a very small thing, like a nitpick. Like in the I understand window, the small model one. What about replacing the toggle with a check mark? I think that would be more apt for this particular location
Yeah, I mean I just took what was there, but
because it's
yeah.
like a kind of contact like situation, right? How when we download an app, there is an option of this. These are the terms and conditions. You understand, and then we go to the next option. So like a check mark is kind of a default for I understand sentence.
Well, it depends. I mean, you could even use radio buttons because they're
Mm-hmm.
actually a checkbox is a I mean it's a boolean, right? It's yes or no, or
Mm-hmm.
it's one value or the other, and
Mm-hmm.
they're mutually exclusive. So in that case, it could be even a better option to use some
Radio.
kind of radio selection
Mm-hmm.
because then you see the impact of both choices, right? So you see, and you could even say use an entirely different thing than here and just say encrypt or don't encrypt or
Mm-hmm.
protect or don't protect. And so which UI element we use, I think that's also part of the iteration that Christoph was talking about. But
Right. Yes. On the feel, kind
I'm
of a
gonna
very
make a
light. Yes. Got it. Got it.
I have a question a little bit further. And I'm curious if there are any standards for this. The term regular wallet, the word regular, how does that sound to everyone?
Regular wallet. Should we name it to
Um,
single stick wallet or single key wallet?
I
Single stick? No, it's a single key. Single
I
key.
will speak from a non-technical perspective. I never understood the difference between single sig and multi-sig when I first joined Bitcoin Core. Now I do, but regular wallet
Boomer wallet.
is more friendly to my ear. It's like it's just the standard thing. But then I'm just wondering how you then differentiate between what would you then call a multi-sig wallet if you call a
Mhm.
single sig wallet a regular wallet.
Right. Yes. Regular seems like a kind of too vague kind of word. Like you don't know what kind of regular. Like without password regular or single key regular. What kind of regular?
Yeah, what
Mhm.
does a regular refer to? Somebody might
Yes.
think, oh, is
Exactly.
this only Bitcoin, or can I also use, like, are there other features? Are there like pro
Oh.
features in it or something? They might
Yeah.
not know that it relates to the number of keys. Yeah.
Right.
This
This is
it,
Could you call it? I know this might sound really crazy. Could you call the regular wallet a one key wallet? I
Single key, yeah.
A
Single key
single
wallet.
key wallet. A single key wallet.
Yeah.
I think
well,
it might
I
work.
think that would be a little bit confusing. Um,
Yeah, I mean, so this is incredibly complex because even this a single sig, you're creating all of these child keys and these. So you have one parent private key, and then you're creating them in a chain, right? And so all the wallets created, they're going to be HD wallets, but there's all these other types of wallets. They don't have to be HD. And here we're just kind of assuming that it's HD. And so there's more than one key. You're going to be generating these child keys, um, but we will consider it single signer, right? It's all from this one parent, and so this one parent, you can back up the wallet at the beginning. So, you can use this wallet for a long time, right? And let's say you only backed it up at the very start. You'll be able to derive all of these child keys and these child addresses you use to recover your funds, which is important. Um, and so that's sort of like the cool thing. So you only have to back it up once. There's other wallets where you would have to back it up every time that you used a new address, and those aren't common anymore. Um,
Yep.
but that's just sort of one piece of knowledge there.
Maybe single signer and multiple
Yes,
signers.
single signer wallet, multi signer wallet. I think that would work.
But is that the way that it's used? Because I've never really heard single signer wallet. Um,
Yeah, I don't know.
yeah, I've
This
heard
seems like,
single key.
yeah,
Yeah,
single key also, but single signer would then lend itself. You have an external signer.
yeah,
Uh, but so I don't know. I feel like this is a thing where we need to write up a bunch of options and their advantages and disadvantages, and maybe ask around. I
Mhm.
don't know what, and maybe, and there could also be other text at the top. We have the labels, but we also have these 1 to 2 lines of text below that then can shed
Mm.
some light on them. Having a single word, fully encapsulate some complex stuff just never works out. I mean, people still like still for the next 100 years talk about the word wallet and whether it's appropriate, precise enough, or what it means and everything. You know. So yeah.
yeah. I think for now we'll leave it single key and multi key, and then
You only.
see if we need to sort of redo the descriptions. But I think for now those names are fine.
Mm.
All right.
Cool.
What else? I mean,
The
I didn't spend too much time on kind of these
Is
information text, but
Mm-hmm.
that's
no,
also
that's in the
something.
onboarding. No, it's
Yeah, but before we actually write the copy, we can just create a bullet list of what needs to go on this screen.
Yeah.
Like the wallet name, we don't know yet because we can just show that on the screen where you enter your name. And I don't even know if the wallet name is actually used for the file name, if that's accurate. Um,
Yeah, it is.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Then something about security, obviously, that also needs to be. Maybe it needs to go into. Maybe it needs to explain that term single key. Then single key means that it is completely managed here on this device, and yeah. So I think copy is such a huge thing of
Mm.
this whole experience.
it's a huge thing, really. Yeah.
Are there
I
any
think
are there any
to
bullet
also.
points that are missing? Like anything super crucial that needs to go on here?
Um,
The title could even say, well, you were just on the create wallet screen. You said create single key, and then you pressed continue. So the title doesn't even have to state again what you just did. It could even go into single key wallets are fully managed on by yourself, by you on this device or so. That could be the title.
Mm.
And then the bullet, because otherwise you're just repeating what the user just saw.
And another thought that came to mind is I know you guys want to push for the users to encrypt their wallets, but would you also consider allowing them to encrypt it after the first transaction is made? Maybe
yeah,
they
of course.
download the
Yeah.
wallet and they're like, oh, I just kind of want to check it out. Like I'm not sold yet, and then they want to see what it would, just the interface of it, and then yeah, maybe they want to encrypt afterwards. So do we have that as an option, or would we like that?
I think it
S-
exists.
yeah, that can be an option. But I think we should still default to it. So if they choose not to encrypt it, then they can always choose to encrypt it later.
Yeah.
I have an option here. I use password managers super heavily for everything because it allows me to create super complex, unique passwords for every single service or thing that I interact with. Is it possible to integrate with a password manager?
If integrating just means with the input field, if there's sort of a QML property that says, this like is a password field that can be exposed to these things, then yes. But if there's any sort of pinging or hard coding some API calls into this for some password managers, then no. So I mean, we can look into that though.
So if there's some simple operating system API, then yes, but otherwise, no.
Yeah. If it's like, but I guess that might work for Apple, right?
Mhm.
And maybe for Windows, but probably doesn't work for any of the Linuxes, which I guess is just kind of assumed.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can look into that.
I think in the worst case, you can just copy and paste the password from the password manager app to these fields, right? So it can still be done,
Yeah.
not on the API level, but on the user level.
Yeah, you could always do things manually, but I think Christoph is getting into like that's how you manage it, right? So with these password managers, it'll kind of automatically be done.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and with the latest iOS, they also have a thing called passkeys, where they actually create unique, even account and service specific. It's like the same thing as creating a public private key pair specific for a single service tied to a specific user account. So I don't know. Maybe there's some cool new things, and if that gets more people to protect their Bitcoin well, maybe that's um, worth investigating. But that
I
seems
don't
like
know
first
about
like a technical research task.
I don't know about the QML development or how it would be done, but by using the iOS, I have observed like every app which requires password get access the Apple passkey service to get the unique password from from the Apple itself. So like it's probabilistic that QML should also have that feature. So I think it's
Mm.
it has a high probability of that being there.
Yep. Okay, cool. Something to figure out. Seems like a separate
Mm.
technical research and then maybe design and
Exactly.
implementation task.
Yeah. And maybe the lowest hanging fruit would be a recommendation to say we recommend using passwords generated with a password manager or strong passwords. And then you just, like Shashwat said, you just copy and paste. So, yeah.
Okay, cool. Anything else about this flow? Did we go through everything?
Maybe this screen here might be interesting to discuss as well. The second to last screen where he has kind of a redesign almost of the, like, it's the block clock, but then he has ETA and then there's some time. That one might be interesting to look at as well. I like the options here, read the white paper, read our best practices guide. Um,
Yeah,
Yes. Go ahead.
it was just an idea that you reuse that. Maybe it makes sense to reuse the visual of the block log to indicate the progress of the download. But then, obviously the caveat here or the danger here is that it's basically mutilated or start double encoding things. So in one instance, it's a download progress, yeah.
But the block log already has that state. It does. It has an
Okay.
connect and sync and download, and then it goes into the latest block time state. So that
Cool.
works.
Cool.
Yeah. So something to think about is here we have activity send and receive. Receive works just fine. You don't have to wait for anything. You're just not going to see incoming transactions yet.
Mm.
Activity, Gerald, if during the IBD, if let's say it's not done, but it has detected some of my transactions, will they already show? Will it fill in over time, or does it only check for those after the IBD is done?
Um,
It's after, I guess.
I I think it should start to show up.
Mhm.
Um, but I think I have to go over that again. My wallets, they're kind of near the end, right? And so it kind of just shows up near the end, right?
Yeah.
Mm.
But I'd have to check up on that.
And something Jared mentioned yesterday, which might be connected to the screen, is when I asked him the question, what can a user do during the IBD? He said they can see how much of the history is downloaded and see who you're connected to. Is that something, maybe an option that we want to give users the ability to see when they're on this screen? Or we say, well, look, probably very few people are going to be interested in that. Let's just leave it out.
So the design for the block log, let me see if that's on the website as well. No, it's not. Then it's just in. So the idea was that you can click different parts of the block log to get different information. So you click the block, and then you go to the Explorer. You click those few dots, and then you see your peers and the connection information. Um, you click the logo and you play pause or resume pause. So every part of it has some type of interaction that allows you to access different things. Um, so yeah, I mean, I think there are also some designs where that peer information is overlaid that we could look at.
Mm,
I I don't know personally. I don't think it's more for the very technical minded.
that's
Yeah.
my feeling as well. That's really my feeling.
Yeah.
I think Christoph, that would be too heavy on the information side. I think because if we at the end of the day we want to keep the tap to pause option, then say on a mobile screen, on a touch screen, you are pressing with a thumb, and instead of pressing the B, you press the block counter, and now there is all the option of how much data has been downloaded opens. It's just
Mhm.
confusing, right? So it can work on a desktop kind of setting, but I think it might create some confusion on the at least mobile side of things.
Let's try it out.
There there's a couple of reasons why we would want a window at least showing the peers because um, you want to see, or some people would want to see, um, and you might want to add a peer. And I think if you wanted to add a specific peer, as in if you had another node in your home that you always want to be connected to, then you could add it from this window. I think that's
Mm.
the window that it would be in, right? Where you could also see your other peers, and so then you'd add it, and then you could see that okay, I am connected to my other node. And so for that reason, I think we would want it.
So, but there are two different things. One is just a quick preview, like what I have in my background here. Just a little thing that just shows me a quick summary of what's happening, how much downloaded, how many peers, whatnot. The other one is the full peers management table, and I think I have a mock-up of that. Here's the current one, current GUI, and then here just some ideas, how we could potentially simplify this. And you can add your own peers, you could kick some out, you could see statistics. Those are just explorations here. Like here, ban this
Yeah, and I
background,
guess
disconnect. Yeah.
yeah,
So this is for the very technical minded that, they don't like certain peers, they like others, they want to manually add them. But then I think for the block log, it was more about just some quick basic info. So if somebody's antsy and wants to see what's going on.
That's nice. I like that.
Yes.
I guess people, I don't know. I mean, the real users, yeah, they maybe they want to know that. I like it.
Yeah, to quickly
It's
have
just,
that is great. Yeah.
yeah, it's a
Um,
it's simple information, but provides kind of value to user, like two active connections.
We could also, so this could be some part of our design strategy. There are a lot of things, there are some things that we know for sure. Somebody needs to enter a name for their wallet. Very obvious. There are other things where we're guessing, where we're saying, well, sometimes some people might. And those are all the things we can prioritize. And we could keep certain things in mind and just wait until it gets into people's hands and see what people say. And then
right.
if
Yeah.
certain things come up, then we already have solutions at hand that we can show them and talk to them about. So that would allow us to, that could give us, allow us to focus on kind of the essentials and get those things moving, but also have this backlog of ideas. And then when it hits the market, that will show us what's good to do next. And because we've already thought about them, we may already, the UI might already work very well for them. Like we might not have to redo the whole thing. So I don't know, something to keep in mind with all of
Yeah.
these
Yeah. I'd
explanations
agree.
here. We should really document a lot of this stuff.
Right. Yes.
And in line,
Documentation.
I'll write that down. And in line with what Christoph said is as well, I'm just curious, I know when you're using certain interfaces, you kind of know, even though it's not really obvious that you can click on something and that something's going to happen. I'm just curious, and you could find that out through usability testing, whatever, but like, does a normal person have that intuitive feeling like, oh, like if I click here, it's going to show me my connections to the net. Like I'm curious about that. I know certain interfaces do that very well. I remember there was an exercise app or something like this, and you kind of just know that you can click on that and something's going to happen, but there's no obvious like click here. It's not like it doesn't look like a button. Um,
Yeah, I mean, especially if you use stuff like Snapchat or some other more fun and playful apps, people find things out.
yeah.
And even if you use a regular, I mean, I use an iPhone. I also have an Android phone. Even with an Android phone, where you swipe down to notifications, there's no indication that there's this list of these 5 icons. You can swipe those down again to see more. No indication of it. Like there's a lot of
Mm-hmm,
swiping and multi-swiping and like nested stuff. That one I actually hate because it's totally unintuitive. But I'm saying that there's a surprising amount of things happening on smartphones that are not clearly indicated.
yes. Yeah. 100%. Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. And users are
Doesn't mean
just
we have to do
figuring
it.
it out as they go along. So with regards to this, Christoph, you said that note this design decision. So for now, we're just going to leave the block talk. Just
Well, I mean, we haven't decided. We haven't decided any decisions together here. I think Michael's exploration is really great with the text. Maybe it's a little bit too much, but I think it would be cool to see something like in there. It's like a personal message too, with a little heart, read the white paper and whatnot. I don't know if that's possible because it means we would link out to a URL. I don't know if there's something about linking to URLs, right? Somebody would have to host it. That could be malicious. It could be replaced with a malicious PDF. I don't know.
Yeah, we can link to our URL. The issue is a reliable link to the white
Yeah.
paper. I mean, people like Chain Code Labs, they host it, but then it's kind of like, are we sort of suggesting anything about Chain Code Labs or suggesting anything about XYZ wherever we link it? Like we are sort of like heavily supporting them or something like that.
Yeah, it's like this
So,
weird kingmaker thing. I've
yeah.
noticed that in a bunch of open source where they're just very careful that no particular service or other project gets preferential treatment or even perceived preferential treatment.
Right.
Um,
Mm.
so so it's
We
sometimes
can.
it's great to have. It seems so simple, like yeah, it's just put in a link, but there are all these
Well, I
considerations.
mean, it could have also its own screen where just the text is inside the application,
Hmm? Oh, okay.
right?
So keeping the white paper
Yeah,
inside the app itself.
yeah,
Or
that
8-page
helps.
PDF can't be too big.
Yeah, I think that might work. That might work.
Yeah, some people are creating lawsuits over this, but
That
I
is true.
think there's a really good foundation here for the wallet. And Michael, I think it'd be great if we could get sort of with your flow, if we could also explore multi-key and view only. Of course, that's really complicated.
Hmm.
And I think you guys will be surprised with how complicated view only can get. So I think when we get to that might be an interesting conversation. Right in the current GUI, you can create a view only, and then it really it's up to using the console to kind of get in what you want to watch. So if we're going to do it within the GUI, well, when we'll get to it, we can discuss that. But yeah, with this foundation, let's explore these other two wallet types and see what we get to.
Yeah, sure. I mean, that's why I didn't touch it yet because it's gonna be more work, right? So I didn't have enough time to really think about that too much.
Yeah.
But also maybe let's see without the modals. And then just quickly, one question I had is in your design, creating wallet again is a modal window. So do you guys think when you click create wallet, should a modal progress show up, or how should that go?
Is it a modal?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a modal window. Yeah,
it's in the
in the
same,
current.
basically what the
Oh, you mean
menu
a
you showed.
wizard, like a full screen standalone
Yeah.
experience?
When
Resharing. So
when you click,
basically,
yeah.
yeah,
Oh,
go ahead.
Michael, you got it.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, so the let's say if we decide to use this pattern, then basically the loader would
Ah,
they are not two modals visually; they're in the same place. So you just actually replace the content of this guy with this thing here, right? So it's you stay basically in the mode. But if and I can definitely do that kind of if we go with a full page um, pattern, then uh, you could say on that full page there's some kind of loader in the button, or it takes over the screen, or it replaces the screen content. But so these are things that I think I can have for next week for discussion or ping you in
Michael,
there soon.
maybe you can also think about the third idea. Like since creating wallet, this will take just a few seconds. Doesn't have any call to action buttons, right? So we can do something like whenever when you if there is not model the encrypt wallet model is not present, then when you click on the create wallet button, there would be just a small message down or upside up of it like creating wallet. This will just take few seconds and it directly jumps to the wallet page, like how Reddit does it. Like when you press on the login button, it just said you are logged in. You will soon be redirected. Something like that.
Mhm. Yeah, there are multiple options how to do it.
You this yeah. There's also something else as well. Is a user's expectation, and I guess there's nothing that we could do about this. Once they see that modal that says creating wallets, you know, they're kind of the expectation, and as I said, there's nothing we can do about this, is to have a wallet in front of them that's just ready to go. Because we're telling them, this will take just a few seconds. So then they're like, okay, great, I'm gonna have my wallet, I'm gonna start getting ready to transact. And then they get this TikTok next block. So it's like, I'm just trying to
yeah,
put the
yeah.
users, it's almost like, hey, you told me like, oh, my wallet's gonna be ready in a few seconds, but okay. TikTok next block, 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
Well, I think there's two things here. It's well, yes, the wallet is ready, right? And then so you can always receive, but from within how this wallet and this GUI will manage the keys, we can't send right now, right?
Mhm.
And so in like one way it's wrong and one way it's correct. From within this GUI, it's not ready in the way the user expects, but the wallet's like was ready, it's finished. The keys are
Yeah.
there.
So you would almost have maybe two other additional screens one screen coming off this saying, if they do happen to go to the send tab, then they would receive another screen or a message saying, oh, sorry, you can't send right now. And if they go to the receive screen, then I guess they see the standard receive screen.
Yeah, I
Well,
mean the activities tab. Ideally, you open the app, you create your wallet, you see activity, and then you get this message. You don't even know what the activity is. It could just it maybe it should start by telling you this screen will fill up with your transactions. It's currently still downloading blocks, so there might be transactions in your history coming in. If not, then make sure you share an address and deposit, like something that's specific, unique to this screen, that lets people know how this activity screen works and how it's related to the initial
Mm,
block
mm,
download. The
yeah.
send screen is similar, where um, you know I guess you can get, you can't do anything there. So that one is the one that's the most blocked, really. The receive screen, that actually works great. There just has to be a small note about how transactions will not show up if
Yeah.
someone deposits. So I think, yeah, there should be, and then at the bottom maybe we can add this in about reading the white paper, best practices, like this additional note. But yeah, I think it would be helpful if there are screen specific treatments here that then lead into nicely to the actual full usage
Yeah.
of each one.
Yeah, it feels like, when I recreate wallet, then I'm expecting to see a wallet. It's just, I'm like, this is my expectation.
But more, you are forgetting one thing.
Mm-hmm.
Initially, when we complete the onboarding views, the text says, as we yesterday or probably last time discussed, that IVD is happening. You can't do anything. In the meantime, if you want, you can create a wallet. So there is a kind of disclaimer before you started the process.
Good point. Good point. Good point.
yeah,
Yes.
but I agree. But still, I think
Yeah.
Moo's point is valid that you're.
Yeah,
I think if you get confronted with something like this again, then you can feel lost, right? Because yeah, so getting to somewhere like this is maybe less intrusive, right? But it's I'll create a few different options.
Mm.
Yeah.
And I was
that's
also
the
thinking about this thing here actually, whether or not to call it like home or something like that. Um, but yeah,
There was
Okay.
actually, I pointed this out because of the usability test with mixed wallet is like, I think when users are going through this whole onboarding journey, they really just, there's that impatience. They're just expecting things to happen and be ready to start using things. So when you tell them your wallet is almost ready, they're like, oh, great, like that's the next screen I'm going to see. So
Mhm.
it's just making sure that the GUI shows
yeah,
them screens that their mind is expecting to see.
Yeah, all of this copy has to be revised another 10 times, starting with the very beginning, making sure every little piece of text builds onto the next one, and that
Yeah.
people are guided smoothly. That's it's a fun task. I like that one because you kind of feel the kinks getting removed over time.
Yes.
Copy is a big thing. Yeah.
Also, one more thing, like if we consider the most assumption that maybe a user sees creating wallet, so they might think that they would be ready to go as soon as this creation is done, right? Then also we are in the Michael's mockup. The illusion is just broken after in the next window, like TikTok next flow. You can't do anything. So it's not like some a long kind of illusion in which all the process is done and then you are being made aware that no, you can't do anything. You are just made aware like just the next second or next step. So I
Mm.
don't think it might be that big of a problem, because it might have been a problem if the illusion perceived for a kind of long time.
And a little fix could be in that creating wallet modal, this will take
Mhm.
seconds. Because, okay, so this is a really big contradiction that I've just seen now. It's really funny. You say, it says creating wallet, this will take just a few seconds, keynote seconds. The very next screen you see is ETA 2.5 hours. Guys, come on! Like,
Well, the wallet was created in a few
yeah,
seconds.
okay. The wallet was
Okay,
created and then it's
that's an
taking
important point, I guess.
2 hours.
Yes.
What's missing is our our UTXO set that we have to construct ourselves, and that's going to take 2 hours to finish.
Or maybe
But
in
this is
wallet
more.
model. I know it's really funny. It's just an observation. But in this creating wallet model, we could say something like you now need to sync with the network. That might take a few hours.
Okay,
That
how about each of us? We create wallet. We take the current GUI. We create wallets, and we see how many seconds it takes. It might even be a non-issue if it's really quick.
yeah.
Where it just a little spinner is fine.
At least it's quite quick in the Signet network. So I don't know if changing the network changes the speed of wallet creation, but at
No,
least
there's no change.
yes. So it's like a snap kind of. It takes just a snap kind of time.
Yeah.
Snap amount of time.
And with something like that, it's also that if you could initially show nothing until, I don't know, 1 second has passed. If after 1 second you can show a little spinner, and maybe after 10 seconds or so you can show messages that this takes a little bit longer.
Yes,
Um,
yes. Yes.
that's also good because I think there are some limits. I forgot what they're called. Time intervals. Like if something is less than 400 milliseconds, people are fine with it. If it's more than a second, people get impatient. And there are these intervals.
So
Yeah,
there has been research behind this, like a psychological research. Wow.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Designing,
for sure.
designing with the mind in mind, it's called, I think, the book. And it has uh, exactly these thresholds. I think it's like 350 milliseconds is where you don't even notice. And then the second one is where you maybe just display some indeterminate spinner, and once it's over something, you need to show progress if you can. I mean, more concrete.
And the trick is not, it doesn't even have to be done. It's just that it feels like things are progressing, right? That's why
Yeah.
websites have these empty boxes that kind of roughly represent like the skeleton screen, what they call them. So it feels like there's something on the screen, like with a little gradient moving back and forth or so. That's just a psychological thing to make it feel like things are happening, even though it's just
Mm.
taking the
Yeah.
same time.
Yeah, so that you don't leave or don't click stuff, right?
Mm.
So you should,
I,
yeah,
I have two things to ask and mention before the call ends. Like, first of all, since the wallet creation takes quite less time, and if we decide on that we are not we are not going to keep the encrypt wallet option in the model, then we can then I think since considering the amount of the less amount the small amount of time, we can go with that kind of approach where just a text line appears that create it's been creating, not like a different window or different model, just a text below or above it. So since the time is very small, that would keep the user in the flow. The second thing is, what would happen if before the wallet is created the IBD has been completed? What kind of flow would then be?
Good question.
What is a fast IBD? Well, it's just like you create a wallet after the IBD is done.
yeah,
I mean, you just
No,
go to your wallet and
probably
it's.
let's assume for a second, like user selected the create wallet, the first window, like the IBD is being doing. You can in the meanwhile create wallet, and he forgets about it, goes for something, come back after 4 hours, and
Mm.
complete the process, and then the window show up that TikTok, next blog, IBD is happening. There's some kind of possibility of a confusion there. So maybe we have
well,
to change the final window based on if the IBD has been completed as soon as the wallet has been created or not.
Of course, if
Of
IBD
course.
is
yeah,
finished, we're not gonna have TikTok next block. That's just
exactly.
the current design we have for now. Yeah.
Right, yes. But
And
then what would be the exact flow in that case would be?
From after creating the wallet, then you'd be going into
Workflow?
whatever design we would have for the GUI after that.
I mean,
I
the
think
only
QR code
thing you
window
can
would work.
do, even with an empty wallet, the only thing you can really do is create an address and share it with someone.
Right,
Nothing
yes.
else makes sense.
and also back to what Christoph said, like this activity screen, we now have the block clock in it. I'm just wondering if it might be best to keep that as the standard activity screen design that we have, with a little bit of a message in it saying like, block clock is downloading, because this image now of the activity screen is in the user's mind. They're not seeing the traditional design of it. They're seeing the block clock. But when actually this is actually like, could be like a modal or a screen on its own, because we're calling it activity, which it is, but it's not the activity that we're really talking about. I don't know,
The load, it's not, the screen is not meant for load activity. It's
it's
meant
not
for
meant for
transaction
load
activities.
activity.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
screen
I
is
get
not
that point.
doing what it's not showing the user what the user expects to see.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I thought actually every wallet might have its basically home screen, right, or transaction screen, or something like that, where it's and from there you go to other places.
Mm.
You need like a balance screen. I guess that would be really the home screen. That's kind of the most important, right?
Yeah, it depends on how big you want to expose the balance during usage. Yeah, we have to figure out where if we need a breakdown of balance pending, unpending, where it goes. I was assuming initially that we don't need a balance screen,
Okay.
that it's just not that complicated or important. Because
Right.
the current GUI, it splits that the home screen has transactions and the balance, and it just seems like the
Uh,
unnecessary repetition of the transactions because there's a whole screen also dedicated to it. And then,
yeah. I did want to circle back on the question of updated balances. So I looked at the code, and yeah, it will show up as the block is parsed and a balance is shown, then it'll update. Now, the thing is that at that point, a transaction you create can be invalid if in 100,000 blocks in the future you did spend it,
yeah.
and so then that transaction would be invalid in the network, and so it just wouldn't really work. But at least for the GUI, it will update as it understands that you can spend this UTXO. And then when it knows you spent it, then okay, it updates again. If that makes sense. So as it's going through the IBD, like it will update what you own.
Okay.
Christoph, also, when we press on the balance button, there might be kind of a drop down option in which all the kind of separate confirm balance and unconfirmed balance would appear. So like there doesn't need to be a separate window, but like kind of a drop down would work.
Yeah, let's figure out how many balances there are because I don't know in which one of these 50,000 screens it is, but there is
Yeah.
there's somewhere a design where um, there's a regular balance and then there's like a smaller one that says like I don't know 0.3 pending or something like that, but properly designed. And if that's all we need, then we don't need a whole breakdown.
Yeah. There's pending and unconfirmed, but I think really unconfirmed is with when you are mining. At least with the GUI, that's how it treats it. So when you're mining and your block hasn't been accepted yet into the network or something like that. But something like that. I mean, we can kind of ignore that. I don't think anyone's mining with the GUI, so that's safe to ignore.
One more thing. Do we want to keep an option to display the balance in fiat currency?
Good point.
Well,
Yes, yeah, 100%. And it should be a wallet that accepts USD into it instead of Bitcoin. No. We probably wouldn't want to do that because we'd have to ping someone for that information. And so who do we ping?
But I was mentioning this point on the because of the UI inconvenience side. Like on a practical scale, somebody might just have a 0.02 Bitcoin in their account. Now, do we want to keep it as 0.021, 0.022? How much data we want to display on the wallet balance side? Because each point after decimal matters in case of Bitcoin, at least compared to the fiat. So that's why to amend for this inconvenience with the value of Bitcoin, we can maybe display it as a fiat currency so that they might get an idea that how much money do they have. But still, the point exists. If you want to ping, if you have to ping somebody else, it doesn't work.
This is a Bitcoin wallet. This is not a fiat wallet.
But still,
So,
like
you
Ledger
know,
has an option to display in the Bitcoin as well as in the fiat. So I was
yeah,
surprised from them.
because it also has connection to an exchange, and so if
Yeah,
you're
true.
looking to sell, then that makes sense. But this is a Bitcoin core wallet. It's not going to show fiat prices.
Okay, that makes sense. Got it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, Bitcoin design community.
Are you guys going to be taking part in our design-a-thon? I know, completely off-topic question. Shashwat and
Yes, ma'am. Can you please repeat? I was not able to hear.
are you guys going to be taking part in our design-a-thon?
When is it going to happen?
Starts on the 12th of October. October?
12th of October, like
Yeah,
after a month.
in 1 month.
I
Maybe.
can submit AI art. I'm a bit of a prompt engineer, as it's being called now.
Can I add you guys to the channel?
I'll join. I'll
Cool.
join.
I'll add you guys
Yeah.
to the channel.
I'm here as well. So what? Where is the channel? Like on the Slack or
I'm
some?
gonna go add you guys straight away.
Yes, that would be best, directing us to
So
the right place.
here's something we could add into the app. It is a charting app, and it lets you chart Bitcoin against Bitcoin and Bitcoin against Satoshi. It's like a Bitcoin only charting app with all the graphing tools you might need.
And but it needs the USD. It needs the all the fiat balances as well.
No, you just
No,
like one
this is
Bitcoin equals one Bitcoin. So it's just a Bitcoin internal charting app. So people
right.
who want to
Yeah.
be true to Bitcoin and they still love charting.
Yeah,
But how
and
how that
you
would be
can
of any
convert.
practical use? I'm not able to get it.
It's a
You can
joke.
convert from Bitcoin to Sats really easily.
Yeah, exactly. Right here, it always tell you, like, okay, 100 million.
I haven't as well as not as well. I haven't have an experience with charting ever. So I don't know how it can be useful, like
No,
providing a chart.
it's just meant as
It's a
a joke.
joke.
It's a joke.
Oh,
Yeah.
And these
oh,
charts make
I'm
actually
taking
no
this all
sense.
too seriously. I guess I have to light down myself a little bit.
Yeah. No, I mean, I was trying to come up with like fake stuff like logarithmic moving average oscillator, which is LMAO, and HODL and LOL and stuff. It makes
Uh,
no sense. It meant to look like it's real, but it makes actually no sense if you come
Yeah.
at
close.
least from just how you presented it and then explained it, I thought that it might have some value. I am just not educated enough.
It's the Bitcoin Maxi charting app.
All right, and so then I guess we're probably getting towards the end of the call. And so next week for the regular sort of dev call, I guess that's what we'll call the other one. Hopefully hopefully I'll have some updates on the development side. But if anything, we should continue finishing up these designs for the different wallet types, so we can get that done and sort of solidifying down what's going to be the wallet flow, right? This is kind of still in the air, but we'll figure it out.
Yeah, I think we're getting closer to a point where this thing will, these, and the decisions we make now about how we label things, how we guide people users through the flows, they will also inform everything that we design afterwards. So yeah, but we should over the next weeks or so try to nail down, try to make some decisions, document them, put them in the design docs, start calling things maybe not totally final, but release candidates or whatever you
Yeah.
would want to call them.
Yes.
Design release. I don't know. What are the other ones before release? There's like master something, no?
What do you mean, like versioning? You do have your master branch. I guess release candidates would be
Yeah.
that, and yeah.
Yeah, cool. Awesome. Yeah.
Awesome.
Cool. Then I will
Alright.
stop the recording now.
Just one more thing before we finish. Very small thing.
Is it
Like
okay if I
should
stop the recording?
yes, sure.
Okay, cool.
So